If I'm really objective, I would sit there and go like, yeah, what the hell am I doing with the company? And I would actually try to figure it out with the guys. And it's the same thing. I just pick up the phone and it's like, Shadi, the system's just falling apart. What's going on? And he goes like, oh, I said, we'll figure it out. We're dealing with it. And there's no sense of authority. And this is what, to get to your point about ego. When I select a co-founder, one thing that I always do is I think of it differently. Is would I want him to manage me?
Okay. So continuing on Abe's point about family businesses, like in Pakistan. So I think one of the main reasons where maybe you can add to this is a lot of these companies are older than Pakistan itself, you know. So they were founded 3-4 generations ago, and they have been practically been run very, very traditionally in a very, very conventional manner. And when when somebody from the newer generation who is studied abroad, who's looked into tech, who's very tech savvy and wants to get into a new mode of operations, new modes of sales and all, and when they get in the picture, they're like, you know, we want to revamp the whole thing. And that's where people get insecure. The older generation gets insecure and say, this is the way it's been running. Our customers are aligned with this. Our customers are generations across generations. And then when you're going to flip everything away, you know, into a completely new strategy, we're going to lose our customers, and our 2 or 3 generation old customer base is going to get disrupted. So there is a lot of that.
I feel like you've just you've given an ideal scenario. I think usually it's like, I want to do this, and it's like, no, you shut up and stay put. That's it. There's no explanation. There's no context. There's no like rationale or justification. It's like, you're telling your father how to suck eggs. You know who I am.
You're trying to clean it up.
We have an
PG version.
Yeah, we have an expression in Urdu, Juma Aart Din, is basically means like you've barely been around, you've been alive for 7 days, and you're telling me how to run the show.
Yeah.
Back in your seat. But yeah, that's, you know, I mean, the whole the fundamental, I mean, this is not just family businesses. This goes to corporations that have been running a certain way for, you know, eons. If something ain't broken, then why you got to fix it? Sorry, we have a guest appearance. But you know, I think that then they speak a different language entirely. The way, it's not a Pakistan thing. This is a global thing. You could go to the States and you'll meet a family from Texas that, you know, has had a family for business for 5 generations, and things run the way they do because that's the way they've been running, and they will make slight adjustments to accommodate for the times, but they're not going to do a proverbial pivot because things are not working out. They will probably shut up shop and just do something entirely different.
They'd rather go down.
They'll have some sort of nucleus of revenue coming in from somewhere else. Like maybe it's feudal money. And, you know, in the case of Pakistan, you'll have like people who have farmland and they're making tons of money on mango, but they decide, you know, let's run a business as well on the side. And, you know, that runs for a few generations. But sorry, just deviation, but it was an interesting, I liked the idea. I was just imagining, I was like, if somebody actually gave that kind of a reason, I was like, that would be the day.
I've seen a lot of the family businesses, you know, they would tell the 3rd generation, here's some money, go figure out what you want to do. Yeah, just don't do it here. just do it on the side. Go just move away.
Keep a different name.
Yeah, exactly. Just like, oh, my son started something. It's not, you know, part of our group or whatever. Yeah, they would normally, I would see that happen.
Media thing.
Exactly. Yeah, and then suddenly he's making a couple of millions. I was like, well, my son, part of the group, is now making this.
Or it's something in IT. You know, he's always been making PCs at home.
Yeah, so since he was a kid, he was putting gaming computers together or whatever it is. Yeah.
He writes posts on Facebook.
I swear to God, you want to hear something interesting? It's like I got into a taxi cab. I would think it was in 2010. After we started, you know, like skyrocketing and you know, the hardware and the competition and all that stuff. And I was sitting there in the taxi and I had the hardware in my lap and I was looking at it and goes like, what is this? I was like, it's some hardware we're working on. It's like, what did you study? Actually, the literal translation in Arabic to this is intashugari, and it's basically, what did you read at university? So it was basically, it's like, you tell them computer engineering. Goes like, you spent 5 years in engineering. I have a cousin right there. He knows how to he knows how to type on the keyboard. He didn't go to university. I don't know what you were doing for 5 years. And you sit there going like, okay, I'm gonna have to explain life for you. He just stopped there. He's like, I'm not gonna do that now. Yeah, well, you're right. Just end it there.
Yeah. Sometimes you need to pick your battles, right? So
yeah, definitely.
That's not a battle you want to really win.
And you're not gonna get anything out of it. It's like,
yeah, exactly.
You're not gonna get a free cab ride because of it if you can convince them.
It's not gonna. It's not 15 minutes. Honestly, save your breath, I guess.
Exactly.
Yousef, sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, Yousef, I kind of wanted to, this has been a lot of fun. I just want to kind of swing back a little bit and just kind of reflect on some of the stuff that you said in the beginning and kind of take it into a slightly different direction. You've worked with 13 people in a co-founder capacity, and that's insane. Like, I mean, I don't know 13 potential candidates for co-founders.
Yeah.
You've worked with them.
How do you find them in the first place?
Well, so I mean, I've got the white hair to prove it. I've been trying. I think I'm a hard person to find to work with. My current business, by the way, right now, the agency that we've started in Dubai, my wife and I run it together.
Nice.
And we've been married for 13 years next month.
Nice.
And we've been running the business for about 5.5 years together. And it's been a great learning. We even recently had a kid together as well. So a lot of it's been great for us, right? So I got lucky in that respect because my co-founder was just in the same house. We ate the same food. It was just, and we were a good match to do a business together because we balance each other out. And but with my other startup, which I'm also building right now, it's in the in the food tech space. Completely unknown to me, didn't have any background, but we're getting along really well because we both know our strengths and weaknesses, and we're developing that. We haven't had our first frustration or our fight. It should happen soon. We're getting to that point where it's going to be just a matter of time. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
But knowing what you know, so I wanted to hear your advice. If you're looking for a co-founder, what are you looking for? Like, what are aside from the skill set, like I need a CFO, I need a CTO, I need a CPO, whatever. That's a requirements fit. But I think probably my guess would be that a larger part of that compatibility is more to do with how well you would work together, not necessarily in agreement, because you need opposing forces to be able to build something tremendous. But what do you look for? Like, what's the checklist of like criteria?
It's going to sound crazy. I don't look for them. They just happen. I just happen to meet them. And what I mean by that is I normally kick off. So some of the startups, it's irrelevant. What I mean, it's irrelevant. Like Bilfuron as an example, I came in as a partner because Batikhi already has been building this. Muhammad was already building it. And I came in because he had a major problem with technology. And to me, it was, it's simple. We can do this. So we decided, I'll budget. I'll have my own money. I literally kind of invested / started the whole tech part of it and just built the whole thing for him and worked with him. And I met him by luck. It was basically, I met him in the business park and he was just telling me what he was doing and I just loved what he was doing. And then I just gave him a couple of pointers and walked away. And then he calls me up again and says, would you be interested in, partnering up, figuring something out? And it's like, well, let's start working together, see how it goes. And then we'll discuss that further. Same thing with Arabia Weather. So Arabia Weather is an interesting story. Muhammad Shakir, the way I met him was, there's a cafe I used to live in. I don't even call it to sit there. I used to live there. We would go there every day, and I just have left Yahoo recently. We kicked off a company. I was in the founding team of that company called Howie. My manager back then, Andy Abbar, was the director right now in the UAE for Howie. He was the director at Yahoo at that time for product. We were working on building that company, and I was like in the product team. I was one of the first employees to actually start on that front. And in Yahoo, there was a lawyer that I used to work with. Her name's Nasreen, and I used to give her a hard time because, I was a product guy. I want to launch tomorrow, and they have a whole bunch of checklists. And I would go and like, I'm launching tomorrow. You figure it out. I don't care about the checklist. And we always had that heated debate. And she was an awesome person. It was like, I used to love working with her. And I used to continue going to that cafe. And one day we went out as an outing for Yahoo after the fact that I left. And Nasreen was there, and her brother was there, which is Muhammad Shakir. And we met for the first time, even though I seen him in this cafe almost every day. He has his table, I have my table. We never got involved with it. It's like we just met at that day. You know, it was like said hello. My wife, Maisa, we met at Yahoo, so we got married, and then we were there together. And then she's very good with friends with Nasreen, and it felt like everyone knew everyone except me and Muhammad. And then when the next day I was in the cafe, I was walking by, just said hello, passed by, saw him writing code, and I stepped backwards and was like, "What are you doing?" And he goes like, "Well, I'm trying to figure out how to connect a satellite, and we're trying to create sequential images for the satellite, for the weather satellites." And he's been doing it for like a couple of days. He's trying to figure out the code for it. And he was like, "You know what?" I just sat next to him, to put my laptop on. An hour and a half later, we got up and running, and I left. And then he came back and he goes like, "Oh, how did you do that?" It's like, basically, it's just, you know, it just happens. I just had that experience before, and I know how to do these things. And then like time went by, and then he asked me if he wanted to join. I met the board, and I presented to the board, presented a couple of strategy ideas on how to change things and move things forward. And it felt like, you know, it's like there was a lot of synergy at the beginning. So those are two incidents. And in Nestrum, it's different. In Nestrum, I made a conscious decision. It's like in B2B verticals, there's a couple of verticals that are always there that are key and pivotal inside of the businesses. So it wasn't like I had 4 slots and I have to go find them. Basically what I did was, at a certain point, you feel like, shit, this guy knows he knows how to sell. We got no clue what we're doing. And you would sit there and you start thinking to yourself, and then you go revisit the cap table, you revisit everything, you talk to your partners, you know, it's like trying to figure things out. Can we do better? Can we actually figure this out? Until you come to a point, it's like, you know what? We can't afford getting him on board. Let's get him as a partner on board. And it actually happened in that sequence. So basically, we need a CTO wasn't a question of, oh, we need a CTO. No, it was basically, Shadi's very good. Why don't we get him on board as a CTO? We have that gap already. And I think that might have helped me. I don't know. It wasn't a conscious decision. It's not like I was putting a strategy on how to get co-founders. I think it just happened, and it happened in a good way. And it might be a good strategy. It's like sometimes don't go look for him. But a lot of board members come in, go find yourself a CTO before we give you further investment. Well, good luck. You're not going to find someone. It's not like it's like put an ad in a newspaper and you get co-founders coming through the door.
I feel that there's a lot of, not luck, but like, honestly, you know, when you're not looking, people jump in your lap kind of thing.
Exactly.
And you know, like I said this before on the show, and I always say it. I have a note file now on my phone. It used to be a written paper. Anybody super interesting that I ever want to work with, I have them on that note file with the notes of what they're good at. And then whenever I have this idea or something, I want to start something new, I reach out to that note file and see, you know what I mean? Because it's not a gut feeling, but I think the first step is you have to like vet the person kind of mentally, socially, like you're comfortable with working with this person, right?
Psychologically, could I be his friend and so on? Yeah, definitely.
Exactly. You know what I mean? And keep in mind, like, I've had a bit more co-founders than you, Yousef, but the thing is most of them were because of a blind spot that I had. Sorry?
I was going to say, maybe we should get you on the show and talk about this.
The rest of them.
Our next guest is going to be?
But no, but the thing is like, you know, sometimes, you know, like even like a family, like me and my brother started a company. Technically, he is my brother, but he's also a co-founder, right? But the thing is with those, I find a lot of times your gut kind of does the first screening, and then you go into those
technicalities. Exactly.
Yeah,
but there's also the social factor. I like to call it's neither gut nor technical. What's the psychology I'm dealing with? Yeah. What kind of person am I dealing with? I've seen a startup. I don't want to mention names. I don't want to mention where either. I saw a startup where the founders actually beat each other up with laptops in front of the customer.
Damn.
Yep. I'm like sitting there, and one of the third partner on that was telling me how they went at each other, and he was telling me this is what happened, and I'm sitting there going like, and he's asking me, should I leave? I'm like, no shit, man. You're still asking? It's like, there's no way this is going to fly. This business is done.
What does your gut tell you?
Exactly. And he's sitting there just questioning me. It's like, I didn't get into the battle with them. I don't know which one's going to come out on top. It's like, I don't care who. It's like, you're the next guy in line to get the laptop to his face. I mean, this is not going to work. And believe it or not, they were like friends for ages since they were in school. And it's because they were friends since school. And believe it or not, they broke up the startup. They probably broke up the startup and they're now friends again. But what happened is because they got used to the psychology of, we get into fights and we break it up and then we go back, it's fine. It's like brothers and we fix this. But you freaking broke a business because of a stupid, irrational response in front of a customer that everyone started to know about. It became ridiculous. And then that's what I mean with my psychology sometimes. And one thing that I always try to explain to people is I met so many people in my life. Because I traveled a lot. I've been to around 36 countries. I've been to Finland. I don't know if anyone been to Finland. Different country, completely different everything. And it was beautiful because I never got a cultural shock, because I felt like I had a cultural shock when I went back to Amman. But anyway, what I liked about it is there's this thing in my head where I feel like there's these lockers, in the gym where there's 100 closets in that locker.
Is this a sauna story?
Sorry?
Finland is known for their sauna stories. Is this another?
Oh yeah. I had a sauna in my own apartment. It comes with the apartment, man. It's not something that you don't get. It's like it's there. And they jump into cold water right after the sauna, and I'm like, no. I'm like, no, that's not gonna happen. To me, I used to swim at 30 degrees Celsius. You want me to jump in the water when it's -4 or whatever it is? I'm not gonna do that. And what happens is that the locker, if you take the lockers, and to me it's like there's 1,000 boxes in a locker where I can put people in these boxes. And I would easily tell you, the first group of lockers are this type of people and these type of people. And this guy would go into this box. And recently, and I've been doing it for 15 years psychologically in my head. And what's interesting is over time is that it's very rare nowadays to go oh, this guy gets his new box. There's a new box. He's going to get a new box. But when that happens, it's kind of interesting because, again, I feel like I'm going into vetting psychology again and vetting, technicalities and vetting the person inside out. And then it's kind of interesting because right now, every box has at least 2-3 people in my head. It's oh, these people, I can pair them up together easily. Sure. And this box, I'm never going to get close to. But I think it comes down with time, meeting people. And this is one thing that you would notice. A lot of startups come out of university. And I've been an advocate right now to almost all these small funds is please move away from university students. I mean, They barely understand what an HR function is in the first place for them to build an HR function in their own company.
I agree.
Yeah, but it's sometimes so surprising when you find people and put them in separate boxes and you think you've known them for so long. I mean, that's how my band split up, actually. We had been together, friends in college, we formed a band, we enjoyed playing gigs and all. And then suddenly the whole, it's like as if we never knew each other. I mean, we grew so apart creatively as well as, how we wanted the band to move forward. The entire vision changed overnight. And then I was like, no, dude, this cannot happen.
It happens. I think what the idea is, how do you manage it? And that's the question I always tell people. Like in Yahoo, if
it's like a cracked glass, man. I mean, no matter what you do, the line's always.
It's going to happen.
That's what I've seen.
It's just a matter of, is it going to be in 3 years or 15 years time, and or 20? And if you look at the founders of Yahoo, one of them was an IC level developer that he wanted to stay as a developer. He knew that if I'm going to go into that, he's on the board. He's not in management. He doesn't want to manage people. He wants to run the software. He wants to run the technology. He's the highest ranked developer inside of that company. Well, that's a good idea. I mean, he knows he needs to do this. And you look at so many startups where this CEO stepped down or that CEO or this founder stepped down. I mean, take a look at a good example of WeWork. If that retard stepped down a lot earlier, things could have been a lot better. All right. And you can't call him a retard either, because he got to where he is because he was that retard. And so it's just natural, I think, that one of them, like if there's 2 founders or 3 founders, sometimes one should move on. If it's a one guy founder as well, sometimes they need to move on. And one of the best things I always give an example on is Microsoft versus Apple. And you could tell right now Apple is stagnating, and you can tell Microsoft right now is still moving up. It's not running fast up, but it's still moving up the scale versus Apple. And it's simple. Bill Gates didn't build a company called Bill Gates Inc. That's what Steve Jobs did. And that's the problem with that founder sitting in the throne, not wanting to move away and just, hog everything. But what's also important is that investors and the board members understand this. Sometimes it's early on, Series A to Series B is kind of critical for a founder to move away. But sometimes post Series B, C, if the co-founder himself is telling you, I'm not capable of doing this,
It's a good
well,
thing.
yeah, and you don't need to kick his ass either. He got you there. And that's the
Yeah.
problem. They would try to kick his ass, but it's like, no, you got me here. Thank you so much. You got equity in this company. You're on the board. I'm going to keep you on the board. We're going to still listen to what you have, because you've built this up. But you know what? We'll get a better CTO. We'll get a better commercial officer. We'll get a better CEO. Sometimes to me, I think about it.
Have you seen a scenario where rather than somebody saying, I cannot do this, they would rather say that, I want to do this plus something else. And this is the direction I want the company to take. And,
yeah,
I can push it in the other direction. So in addition to being whatever role I am right now, I want an additional role. And that's what ruins everything.
Yeah, that's what I learned was wrong. I wanted to do that at a certain point in one of the startups where I wanted to run two things at once, because I was doing it for so long, and then they wanted to bring in a third person, and I was going to go focus on the core weather tech, which I was telling you, we're building database engines connecting to satellites, we're connecting weather stations, and it's not easy. I mean, hiring one person for this role is a nightmare. And the board had a point, like in Arabia Weather, telling me, you know what, you need to focus on the core weather technology and leave the B2C product to someone else. And at a start, I was a bit resistant. I was like thinking about it. No, but I built this and I know how to take this forward. I have a B2C experience in the background. And the guy that explained it best to me, I think it was Namik Zobi from Silicon Valley. And he was like, well, we can find a B2C guy. Where the hell are we going to find the core weather technologist? And you just sit there going like, oh,
Very, very valid point.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like thinking to him, I was like, well, yeah. That's going to be tricky. And he goes like, we're going to go get him from the States and probably not have enough money to get this guy over if we can convince him. And he was like, okay, yeah, it makes sense. So it's like at that point, it just made sense to me. And I felt like, yeah, I was a bit sticky on that scenario for no specific reason. But a lot of startups, and sometimes, one thing about co-founders and founders in general, they try to push the startup in a certain direction. Sometimes, you know what, you need to double down focus. When you figure out, here's what happens. I'm going to sum it up very fast. Nestrum, we've been through pivot. I've never pivoted a business as much as Nestrum, hands down. And what's interesting about it is at a certain point, you need to converge. You can't stay in this R&D phase for the rest of your life. The hardest part for us as founders was to start converging, hence Techstars. And getting to a point going like, now we know what we're going to do and getting it done and getting that pivotal mentality out of your head. I need to keep pivoting and pivot and pivot. And at a certain point, I remember VJ, VJ, he got me in a room and he was like, stop thinking of alternatives. You have 20 on a paper, choose one, move with it. And you get sucked into it. And then that's where, at a certain point, founders need to know like, yeah, life was crazy in the first 3-4 years. And now it's simplifying. It's becoming more of a repeat cycle. We're building a repeat cycle and we're trying to get to a repeat cycle. They lose interest because they've been doing this for 3 or 4 years. And now you want me to just sit there and just watch numbers and sales go up? No, I want to go and fight and pivot and try. So they try to fight their way into changing something and they might even break it. Sometimes you just need to embrace it. If you're growing at the rate that you need to grow and you're making good money, continue innovating, but don't disrupt the wheel that you have already turning. You don't want to put a stick into that wheel and stop it from turning. Rather than, spend a bit of R&D on the side, build it, figure it out, take it forward, and so on.
Well, it was. Well, thank you for that, Yousef. It's great. Honestly,
it was a pleasure. It was fun, actually.
So, obviously, we've been talking for more than an hour now, so which is fantastic, and we can talk forever. But we want to kind of take the takeaways from everybody, and I'm gonna go last. So let's start with Zuhair, and then we'll go to Farrukh, and then myself, and then we'll see how we can end the show today.
Well, I mean, I gotta be frank. We've done. This is now our X number episode. I don't want to give a number because we're we're being very dubious. We've been doing this for a little while now. It's been a couple of months, and we've had chance to talk to a lot of interesting people, share some really interesting advice. But I think that this is probably one of the first times, if not the first time, that we've heard such rich like personal experience about something that we want to talk about. And Abe was like, Yousef is the guy for the co-founder thing, and I was like, okay, cool. And we get into this winging it, right? A lot of times if I bring a guest, everyone's just kind of hoping that this is not going to be a complete bomb. Unfortunately, that's, it's worked out for everyone. But I have to say, Yousef, it's been really enriching to listen to you. So,
Thanks.
really from the bottom of my founder and hope to be a unicorn founder one day heart, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And I think my biggest takeaway from all of this is, I guess it's more of a supporting statement than an observation, is because your point about when you're looking for somebody, or when you think, maybe even when you don't even realize you need a co-founder, but they just appear. And the story of my current co-founder, which for another time, but how we came upon each other was actually kind of like that. I met somebody recently at an event where Abe got me on stage to give me something. I was a little memento for some work we'd done with the startup bootcamp, and there was someone in the crowd who, because of that, wanted me to connect with them and mentor them and advise them. And because of that person, then I was introduced to my now co-founder, who
Nice.
has been amazing. So my key takeaway is really kind of, I think the harder you look for it, the harder it'll be to find it. I think that maybe somehow time and divine intervention have a way of coming together, and just lucky and chance, and I don't know. So maybe just focus on the game, and the players will show up.
Yep.
Yeah. No, really, Zuhair is right. I mean, the kind of conversation we've had, I mean, we could have practically kept on going.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have been as interesting. So thanks a lot.
That was
Yousef.
fun. I was like, thank you guys.
Yeah,
It's actually a fun setup as well. So
Right, yeah. And from my side, the takeaway that I think that I got today was, I think when you're looking at your co-founders, what's I think most important is what we say, the creative part of the brain. You can get skills everywhere. You can get skillful people, but then I think where people match with your philosophy, with basically not the company's philosophy, not the startup's philosophy, but your mindset. Because when you go into a pivot, that's when things really, really matter. So I think it's when you're looking at people, like Abe said, you got to evaluate, you got to have that kind of a mental matchmaking to be done. I think people should focus more on their personal level rather than the skill level. Right. So,
yeah.
But yeah, that's my takeaway. Abe, over to you.
So obviously there's a lot of takeaways, and I know there's more like battle scars than takeaways, from all the stories that we've had. But there is a couple of things obviously Yousef has touched on that I 100% agree on. Always the issue with finding blind spots in, I know I am, filling that specific gap that you need for that piece of business is very, very important. But I'd also like to add is, don't look for the perfect person to fill it, because there's always that person that is a good also soundboard that can bounce ideas off of the person. And the other thing that is also very important is you also need to make sure that you have a very good relationship with the co-founders and the level on top of that, which is either usually the board or the investors and stuff like that, because usually most of the friction happens between those two layers due to anything business related. And that's what I've seen a lot of the co-founders really split, is because of an issue that happened between either themselves or them and an investor or them and the board, because they want to move the company somewhere. So again, thank you very much, Yousef, for your time.
Thank you. Can I just say a small point, just to Abe's point,
Sure.
Just really fast. So it's just, you just said something, I remembered something. It's basically, I think of partnerships and companies are like marriages, and their board is like the in-laws. It's exactly the same way. It functions the same exact way.
Okay. So,
Everyone understands that.
Makes sense.
Yeah. An easy way of explaining it.
okay, so now, please don't pivot out of marriages, please.
Exactly.
A lot of people pivot out of marriages after this. So, so I think we need to take a group fee or whatever.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Selfie
Goofy.
in the group.
On that point, Yousef, I'm thinking of a song by Tears for Fears. Break it down again, but
Yeah.
goofy. All right, cool. So let's get this together. Goofy. All right, cool. Full screen. All right, look into the camera. Let's see your pearly whites. I'm gonna move my mic away. Okay. So I do this really analog thing. I basically take a screenshot.
Screenshot. Yeah.
And I paste it
I
in
think that's the only way you can actually do it, right? Or you're gonna take the last frame of the video.
Oh no, Yousef, your eyes are closed. How
All
do you
right,
close
good.
your eyes on a screenshot?
I have no idea.
Let's try it again. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's try it again. All right, better. Oh, Yousef, you got to smile.
I was smiling. Oh, my
Okay.
mouth closed. This.
Jordanians,
That's
smile.
Yeah, I'm putting too much effort into this.
Yeah, there you go. 3, 2, 1, smile. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
That's a
having two
smile.
Jordanians
I think
smile.
this is the
That's
first episode
There we
we're
go.
gonna have a
That's gonna be worth
Yeah.
money, man. That's that photo with two Jordanians with a smile in it is going to be worth
and
money.
it's worth having a BTS at the end of the video, maybe.
Yeah,
You know,
Yeah.
I think we should have like a bloopers clip.
Bloopers.
Generally, I think. Yeah, we have a few incidents. Like we could have some.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, you should put those in. Yeah.
All right,
But,
cool. This is.
Listen, whenever you're in town, just let us know. We'd love to catch up.
As soon as the flights are back, I'm gonna be in town. I just can't wait, man.
Yeah.
I was thinking if I can go by car, I would do it. Done it already. I'm
well,
fed up here.
you guys know that the hotels are at 85% occupancy right now. You know,
Easy.
In that-
85?
Yeah, dude. Why is?
Oh, because of the what is it
No,
called? Quarantine.
Saudis are driving.
Oh no way!
Yeah, they're coming by cars.
Wow!
Like the hotels are full.
Wow!
You know what I mean? So
I'm supposed to get an apartment in because of Hub 71. You know was it Maria Islands or the, what's it called, the Reem Islands?
Reem.
Yeah, but I never got mine. Let's
I think
see what
that-
happens.
I mean, listen, real estate is not doing very well right now. You'll get a really nice place. Like I was telling the guys, like 70K.
Yeah, I heard you. The villa. Yeah.
3-bedroom villa, and I'm like, so because I was thinking of getting a room, making it an actual studio.
Yeah.
Getting a because my
It's
house
easier
is-
that way.
Yeah, so
And I just got my renewal done, so I'm off the market for a year. But I'd love to get into a villa.
I have
Change
a
it.
mortgage and I owe money to the bank.
yeah, I have a mortgage to this too, but it's too small right now for me. So, but the problem is, yeah, I'm not even gonna go through that. But anyway, so yes, let's again thank you, Ktir,
thank
for
you,
your
guys.
time today,
It was a
and
pleasure.
I'm sure we'll reach out to you soon for other things. And actually, I am talking to Batikhi as well. For,
Oh, nice. Awesome.
you know what I mean? But he didn't show up.
A lot of
last-
stories. Off record, off video, we've been hacked by a guy. Turns out to be an ex-employee, and courts are freaking heated up right now.
Oh, nice.
I hope it works out in your favor, of course.
I don't know whose favor it's gonna end up in, but I think he's in trouble. The guy is in real trouble.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I literally caught him. I literally taught the guy since he left university, and that's what pisses me off. And I was telling Batikhi, it's not that pisses me off, is that I got the guy and I trained him since day one to whatever it is. What pisses me off is I caught him because I didn't teach you well.
Is he the guy who sold the code to a guy in the UAE or something like that?
No, that was a different guy. Man, Batikhi has so many stories, man. You're gonna love this.
Yeah. Well,
He's
I'm
been
sure-
dealing with the cream of the crop when it comes to assholes.
I
yeah,
want
there
to
is
know more
quite a lot of
about this.
those. So, anyway, thank you very
All
much,
right.
guys.
All right, guys.
Great chatting with you.
Thank you.
We'll
Thank
talk
you.
soon.
Soon, everyone.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.